From One of One Production Studios, broadcasting from NYC, you are listening to Unexpected Success with your host, Joy.
Okay, hey, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Unexpected Success with your host, Joy. In the studio today, we have Rich Younglord. I don't even know how to even, producer extraordinaire, but you've done so much more for the industry. And so let's just kind of jump into it. So happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. What's up, everybody in podcast land?
Right. So, I've had the pleasure of knowing Rich now, I guess, man.
Let's not even say. Let's not even say.
A long time. But we were just kind of reminiscing about the fact that both of us had the pleasure of coming up in the world of, I guess, bad boy in the music business in the mid 90s. I interned, and Rich, you were already making music.
Yep.
And so, we were exposed to a lot very early on, at the tender ages, right? And, but I think that, being exposed to those people and the drive of, Puff and everyone else we've been exposed to has kind of given us our drive to keep going today. So I guess tell us something about yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Now?
Yeah, please.
All right. Well, now I go by Richard Younglord, not just Younglord anymore, because
Okay.
I'm a little older.
Just a little bit.
But I'm into music licensing. I have a company called License to Rock, and what we do is place music on TV shows, films, and commercials.
I mean, that's everything, right? So let me hold something.
Yeah.
If anyone who knows anything about licensing music, so you have clearly a huge catalog. Not only, I kind of went through all your discography, and it seemed to be a very, very impressive resume in terms of artists and songs that you've actually produced. But I guess, how did you, tell us about that journey?
Just into production period?
Into licensing catalogs.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I got to start from the beginning because
please.
it all ties into each other.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
It all ties into each other. So I was fortunate enough to start my career as one of the Hitman Puff's production team when I was about 16. And he said to me, one of the first things he said to me, he was like, look, you're so young. He's like, people are going to talk to you. They're not going to be intimidated by you. So ask them questions. That was one great lesson I got from him. And I actually got me into a lot of trouble also asking people questions, but it's a lesson that I took and ran with, and I still run with that every day. I ask people questions all the time and try and learn from them, and it helps me a great deal. And
a jewel, right? That's a jewel that our listeners can take away. Like, listen, ask questions. Don't be too proud, right? Ask them.
Right. So one important moment for me was in 1994, we were in the studio working on Method Man's You're All I Need remix with Mary J. Blige.
I would pay good money to have been in the fly in that studio, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It was magical. Right?
I can imagine.
It was in Hit Factory. But what was so dope about that night is I met RZA for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Now, as a kid.
I never met RZA.
Yeah, the coolest dude. As a kid, meeting RZA for the first time was like meeting a superhero.
Yeah.
So I got this poor guy in a corner just asking him a gazillion questions, and they started with production questions, what do you use, blah, 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 blah. But then I asked him, I said, what is music publishing, right? And at this point, I already signed a publishing deal with Puff, but I wasn't.
Yeah, but it's different, yeah.
You don't know what it is,
Well, yeah, and in all honesty, I worked at a publishing company for a while, and publishing is, I think, intentionally abstract, especially to the artist, right? To the creatives. I think that they have a benefit to make it abstract, so that you don't really understand the math and the money behind it. So anyway, I'm sorry, but I wanted to say that.
No problem. So RZA, being just a dope brother that he is, he said to me, do you know anything about real estate? And of course, I was like, no. And so he taught me the real estate business. He said, that's music publishing. That's simple. And what's actually funny, a lot of people don't know this, but after that happened, maybe a few minutes later, Puff walked by. RZA said, "Yo, I need to talk to you for a second." So in this particular studio in the Hit Factory, there was like a bedroom in there. So Puff went to the bedroom to talk to RZA. RZA was like, "You come too." So we went into the bedroom, and RZA stepped to Puff. He was like, "Yo, are you trying to jerk this kid? He's over here asking me all these questions."
Wait, I have to know what Puff said.
He was like, "Nah." He was like trying to explain. He's like, "Yo, he got a lawyer. I got, like, I don't know what you're talking about." And,
oh my God. Yeah.
I thought that was my last day part of Bad Boy, but I apologized, and I told him, I said, "You told me to ask
questions. I was just asking questions, and so you got those. I mean, you got those jewels."
Oh man! So after that, I became a publishing nut. I learned everything I could about it, and in addition to my just production, making beats, I became highly sensitive about publishing issues and stuff like that. And so about maybe 2003, I decided that I was ready to start my own publishing company. But there was one thing, there was one problem. I was still signed to a publishing deal with Puff. And
and I'm sure that you didn't, probably wasn't the most, it probably wasn't tilted in your direction, right?
I mean, actually, I'm not even gonna lie. It was any publishing deal is all the same. They're gonna get part of your publishing, no matter how much money they give you.
But you didn't sign it away, which is great.
No. I mean, it was a fair deal as far as publishing deals go, but it was, it was a publishing deal. So I set up a meeting with Puff, and I was like, "Look, this is what I want to do." I'm like, dissolve my publishing contract, and I'll give you a percentage of this new publishing company that's going to have the next generation of writers.
Right.
And Puff was like, he's like, "You know what? I believe you're going to do it. I believe you're going to be big. And when you do," he said, "a writer is going to come to you and ask to be released from your contract, and you're going to tell him that he has to stay in yours because you had to stay in mine."
So he was like, "Nah."
He said no. But being the genius that he is, he brought me in to work a part of Janice Combs. So I worked in the publishing division for some time there. Yeah.
So he realized that you could potentially be an asset, right, on that side, and so
yeah.
And which also gave you the ability to kind of learn even more about the publishing. And that's, I mean, invaluable.
Yep.
Okay, and so eventually you started your own. I mean, so
I stayed at Bad Boy till 2010.
Okay, so 7 more years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was, it's now or never to cut the cord and see if you can fly on your own.
Right.
So
and at that point, I guess, so when you started, I guess you had your own, what songs did you have? When you started it up, how did you start it up? In terms of like your catalog and...
Well, I had to start it from zero.
Right. Oh, because all those were obviously...
Everything prior to was Janice Combs' involvement in some way, shape, or form. So I started from scratch, and I found some great writers. I think... that's one of my superpowers, to kind of see talent.
Right, so I was actually reading about that, about just your ability to, scout talent, right? And meet people who are really super talented and help them, even if they don't believe in themselves yet, be able to, embolden them and make them into superstars. You've done that how many times is over?
I'm still doing it.
Right.
But it's cool because it's just, I'll tell you where it all came from. I believe that one of the things that made the hits at Bad Boy was that Puff used to take the producers on trips, and we would go like to the Bahamas or something, and it was there that most of the music for like those big albums were made. So like if you look, a lot of those songs will have like credited to like mad producers and stuff because everybody was somehow part of it,
Right.
And but it was the energy of, turning off real life, eating together, joking on each other, playing basketball, having fun, and it was that energy that created those hits. So I was on a mission to like kind of recreate that energy.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a blessing to have been exposed, right?
Yeah,
So to recreate it is.
Yeah. So how are you going to recreate it? So I brought this house. It was like a 2-family house, and I turned it into like a group home where I would sign writers, and just let them live there. I had somebody to cook, somebody to clean, and we would just create.
I mean, genius.
Yeah.
Genius, right.
And it was a great thing. It was a great
And so
thing.
you just made music.
Just made music.
For years.
Just made music.
Yeah.
And we did well in New York, and then I decided to go to Atlanta and bought a bigger house and bigger studios.
Oh, man.
Do it down there, and that's where the current creative base is, still in Atlanta.
It's still in Atlanta.
Yep.
Okay. So how often are you there?
Probably maybe 5 days out of the month.
Okay. All right. So now you have a catalog of how many songs, and I mean,
we have about 5,000 songs.
wow.
now.
And so do you have like a team of people who are like going out and finding opportunities and shopping it?
Yeah. I have a core team of 3. One of the guys, one of my business partners, Kevin Thompson, he was over with me at Janice Combs, and after he left, he came over and we started working together. And Mike Scott, who's a marketing executive from Mosaic, he comes from Mosaic, and we have a great team of
It sounds
composers.
like it sounds like everything. So
Yeah.
then then you've been successful. So you've been able to get some of the songs. I saw like Pepsi, Gatorade, AT&T.
Yeah. We somehow or another,
Yeah.
things just seem to happen.
How does that feel like when you're watching television, or you see that your song is something that you created or your team created? You get a chance to like watch it and get replayed and know that it's cha-ching.
Oh man, I feel thankful.
Right?
I feel real
Yeah.
thankful.
That must feel really good.
I'm like, ooh, I could buy some milk today. Ooh.
Right. So I mean, did you? And so let's just go back to like, so where are you from? Like, how did you even know you could even do all this? How did you know you could even make music?
Oh man, see, that's the greatest part. This was totally unexpected.
I love it. Perfect. I'm so happy you're here, right?
I had no plans on becoming any involvement in the music industry.
So tell us, let's walk us back.
All right, so it all starts my first week of high school. I went to Cardinal Spellman in the Bronx.
Are you from the Bronx?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first week of school, I met this girl that was so pretty.
I love it. I love a
just
love story.
Incredible.
Right.
So I'm walking her to the bus, trying to spit whatever words
anything,
I had, anything,
Right.
like blah blah.
Now, did she go to your school? Or you just saw her in the street?
She went to my school.
Oh, okay. All right.
So after she left, this guy's grown man came up to me. He's like, "Hey, is that your girlfriend?" So I'm lying. I'm like, "Yeah." Hey, you gotta claim it, right? You gotta
right. She gonna be my girl, right.
And he was like, "Man, you have great taste," because she was that pretty.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Are you into music?" And I'm like, "Nah."
This is a stranger.
Stranger.
Oh,
Danger,
serendipity,
right?
Right. He said he was a messenger.
So he said, "Well, listen, I have a studio around the corner." He said, "If you ever want to come by, you're welcome to come by." He gave me his card. And now that story could have went a whole nother way.
Right, right.
But thankfully, this guy was actually a legit player in the music business.
Holy cow.
His name was Greg Troutman, and his partner in that production company he had was a guy, Tony Dofat.
Oh, wow.
So they had a studio in the Bronx, and they let me come through, and I would just sit there and
listen
right. and observe. And Tony would never talk to me. He would kick me out every time he would come. But there was this producer named Jesse West, who they also known as Third Eye. He would work out of there.
Yeah.
And he was like the first person to take me seriously, like as a real person, So he would answer my questions and just talk to me. And he was working on Mary J. Blige's Reminisce remix, and he was producing with Puff on a few different things.
Okay.
So I got to hear Puff's name, and just be around some great things. A lot of early DMX sessions.
And this is your freshman year of high school.
Freshman year of high school.
So you're, what,
I'm
12?
14.
You're 14.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I got to be around Pete Rock, CL Smooth, a lot of great things. And then from there, I knew I needed this machine called the SP1200.
Yeah.
That was the machine of the day. It was like $2,000. So this artist that I became friends with from being in the studio, he just got signed to RCA. So he's like, look, if you can come up with $1,000, I'll give you the other $1,000 for this machine. So,
and even when you're 14, $1,000, I mean, today is
might as well still
right.
been two, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how am I going to get $1,000?
Thanks.
So I did what any other 14-year-old would do. I went to like a friend of mine who was 14 too, but he was hustling. He was selling drugs, and I said, "Look, man, I need to get this machine. I need to sell some drugs." So he said. So he said, "All right, meet me at this spot on Saturday, right?" So I remember going there. I brought like a butter knife from my house, right? This was my first day of selling drugs. I was, I had to protect myself just in case, And when I got there to start my new career as a drug dealer, he said to me, "Look, man," he said, "Nah, this is not for you." Right,
you're not built for this.
He might have saw my butter knife coming out of my pocket, so he's like,
"Thank God,"
what?
Right?
He's like, I'll try to help you any way I can, but this is not for you. So once that didn't work, I had to figure out some other things. So I just started asking people, like, how can I get $1,000? And this one kid that I went to school with, he said, look, we got 2,000 kids that go to school. How can you get $1 from each kid?
Oh, wow.
Bingo. So I started asking that question. How can I get $1 from each kid in school? And then another kid came up with, oh, why don't you do a raffle? Bingo. I printed up 2,000 raffle tickets and I sold raffles.
I mean, are you listening to this knowledge that is coming through your speakers, right? Right.
The jewel there is like, you don't have to know the answers. You just got to know the questions.
Right.
And I didn't know the answers.
Right. But you knew that you knew what you needed and you went and got it.
I knew the question. So I sold the tickets. I got about $1,000 and I went to the artist who said he was going to give me the other $1,000.
Who would match it, right?
And he had amnesia. He was like, I said, what? Like, what?
And you're like, you cannot be serious.
Yeah.
You know what I've done to get this $1,000?
I was like, whoa.
I almost became a drug dealer. Like,
I took my butter knife out. I don't do that for everything, But at that point, my parents, they saw I was serious, so they went ahead and got the machine for me.
That's magic.
Yeah. So from there, I started creating, and as I would meet people, a lot of people wanted to sign me, and they would all say like, "Yo, I'm gonna bring you to Puff. I'm gonna bring you to Puff." But it didn't make any. It didn't make any sense to me yet.
Yeah.
So then when then maybe like a year or so later, when Craig Mack first came out with "Flavor in Your Ear." And that was a big hit. Then they came out with the remix, and Puff was in the remix. That was
just glory days, right?
Big.
Yeah.
So I was at school one day, and these girls started talking about Craig Mack and Puff Daddy, and the light bulb went off because I was just like, it all synced together.
It started making sense.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I need to get with that guy.
Right, yeah.
So I went to the payphone in school and called information, got the number to the office. And
I did the same thing.
Yeah,
to get my internship. Yeah,
for
it's
real?
crazy. Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
Nope. Good old yellow baby.
Listen, I called. I was like, look, I'm 16. I make the hottest beats. Like, who do I need to talk to? And Gladys, that's her name, right?
Glennis. Glennis, the receptionist.
Yeah.
Glennis.
She's the one. She gave me the name. She said, I think Harv handles that. After that, Stalk City,
and Harv is a good dude. Shout out to Harv.
Yeah, Harv Pierre. Very, very important piece of the puzzle of my life. But we were able to set up a meeting with him the next day. And I went there and played my beats, and Harv
has a stone face though.
He's
stoic,
ice cold.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, it's not happening.
Because he won't give you any indication.
I'm just gonna have to find something else.
Right. with my butter knife.
Yeah. But he brought it to Puff, and then Puff wanted to meet me, and then I met with Puff, and he didn't like my music, but he liked the fact that I made it into the office. So
right.
He was like,
he liked the hustle.
We're gonna sign you up. And
it's dope. What a story. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And because you had that story, I guess you have to be somewhat sensitive, or you have an empathetic heart for creatives that want to win, right? Who I guess can show you that they had the same passion and drive that you had when you were 16.
Yeah, I look for the passion, and I look for like some signs of resilience.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen quick, and you're going to go through ups and downs. But if you can if you can pick yourself up, then you will make it at some point somehow.
Yeah. So would you, considering your whole story, would you recommend, someone who's like a young creative or a young producer, would you recommend them that they get into the music business because listen, we would need a lot more time to talk about, like the things that we've seen. I mean, I'm no longer involved with music at all, and I miss the creative aspects of being involved with it, but I think ultimately it just wasn't my scene anymore. So what would you tell them with all that you know now?
I would tell them that they have to think about it and make a decision. And if you're going to do it, you got to go hard or go home, or become a doctor or something.
Right.
That's safe. This is not safe.
It's a dog world.
So you have to make a decision like, yo, I'm going to win. I don't know how. And you have to, pretty much, give it your all. And if you cannot commit to doing that over the long run, and to not just win, you have to overwin to get
noticed.
Not even to notice, to sustain in this music business.
Right, that's true.
Like you have to like make miracles happen to be okay.
Right.
And you have to think about 20 years from now, because 20 years from now it comes real quick.
Oh, fast, in a flash.
Yeah. So I would tell them that if they're trying to create, then that's cool, but they gotta come up with a plan and execute now and go in. But if like they're trying to do something like work in the business or something like that, I would try and tell them to do something else. Like if they were my family or friends, and the reason that is because with creatives, we get lucky. What I mean by that is the income is residual based.
Right.
So I'm still receiving money off of stuff I did 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
If you're working in the marketing department, you're not.
That's right.
And you're going to get fired at some point.
Yeah.
It's not because of you or your work. It's because of regime change.
Yeah,
it just happens.
How many you see it all the time.
Oh, man. Bad Boy had like a open door policy. Every 2 years, it was like a whole new staff.
You walk in like, who are you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't want anybody to do that. But I'm not going to stop anybody's dream either.
Well, and the path I think is different now, right? So I think back then it was like, try to get the attention of a record executive, right? Whereas now it could be that you just create something really great and you create content, and you might be creating content for a commercial brand, or you might be creating content for a web series, or you might be, it could be a number of different ways that you kind of get your music out there. It's not the same way as it once was, because now you have so many distribution channels, right?
Right.
So would you advise them to create content for for commercial purposes? Like, I don't even know what happens in the business now.
I would say do both. And I would say I say success brings renegotiation. And why that's important is because a lot of people are scared to do deals with different people and stuff like that. And I understand that. But when you succeed, you can renegotiate the deals. Like the same deal I started with at Bad Boy was not the deal that I ended with.
You ended up with, right.
So
where you start is not where you finish.
Yeah. And then I I would encourage people to read, read the contracts and understand what's really going on and how you can use those contracts to your advantage,
Right. No, absolutely. I'm just trying to think. I mean, I know that you also are like a nutrition enthusiast now. Like, I mean, so you've afforded yourself to you can do anything you want to do, right? And that must be nice. Any other ventures besides Licensed to Rock?
Yeah, you know what? I started flipping houses.
Oh, I think I'm gonna start flipping houses today. Right?
Oh man, listen,
no, that's dope.
It's I saw it on TV and I'm like, it can't be that easy. And then I have a friend who he did a house in Rockland County. He made some money, and I'm like, I got money. I could do this.
Yeah.
And me, I don't come from the hammer. That's I work my butt off to be spoiled. That's
right. Like, no calluses.
But I got into it, and so I flipped a few houses, and
it's exciting.
It's exciting when you do something and somebody pays a lot of money for it.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I could do this again, right?
Yeah, it's good.
So you would also encourage people to, if they have any interest in flipping houses, it is lucrative, and
it's very lucrative. Okay. Like it's not a joke. It's
joke. It's good. It's good money, y'all.
It's for real. It's for real. If anybody's losing their homes, you can reach out to Simon Rothschild. That's my company that buys homes.
We're gonna put all of this. We're gonna put Licensed to Rock, Simon Rothschild, with all this on our social. I guess if you had to define your natural abilities, Rich, what would you say? I mean, granted, you've had a really great career in music, but what are your natural abilities?
I think I'm a good listener. I can listen to people and learn from them. I think that's a great thing.
It's huge.
So that's allowed me to be able to not stay in one place, right. Not be beholden to one thing. It's like my life, if I didn't produce, everything would still be fine.
Yeah. And your positive attitude, clearly. I mean, that's also huge.
Oh man, that's super huge.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to actually Berry Gordy.
Really?
Yeah. I got to hang out with him a few years ago, and the first time I met him, I went to his house.
How was that?
Oh man, it was amazing.
Was it elaborate? Was it a compound?
It was a compound.
I love a compound.
And I couldn't sleep the night before. I was like, oh shoot, I'm going to Berry Gordy's house in the morning.
That's crazy.
Like, oh man, I did not go to sleep. And I got to talk with him, and one of the things I noticed was that he was super happy. Now you say he's Berry Gordy, right?
Right.
Of course you'd be happy. He's like,
of course.
He's Berry Gordy, right?
But we both know people who have a lot of money who are not. So.
Nah, it was a deeper though. It was deeper. It was a deeper happiness. It was like some inner joy, that I was connecting with, So I was like, I asked him. I was like, well, what, I'm asking a gazillion questions, and one of the questions I asked him was about when Holland-Dozier-Holland left Motown, right? It was a big thing. They were the biggest producers there, and the company, it could have took a downfall. Right. Everything could have went, and it was a rough time for them. I'm like, how did you, get through that time, losing such a big asset? And he said, the key is just to keep having fun and be happy,
That was his response?
That was his response. He said, you do that, you can handle anything. And I wrote that down.
That was it, right?
I said, okay, my goal is to be Berry Gordy happy. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's
incredible.
great. That's great. Okay. All right. So that's great. I mean, I hope you guys are taking these jewels. And I guess, any parting words of advice for someone who is, kind of wanting to start their own business, wanting to kind of go for it, whatever their passion is, and they're just in their own way.
I would say, who was that told me this? I would recommend to write down all of your assets, the things that you have that can help you, whether it be finances, whether it be relationships, whether it be anything. You have equipment, you have lights. Write down all of the things you have access to, and you'll start to see, from writing that down, you'll start to see like a kind of how you can put those things together to move you in the way
direction
you
you
want to
go.
Yeah, I think that'll be the biggest thing.
Awesome.
From no matter where you are, beginning, top.
Right. Just write down everything that's important, everything you consider to be an asset.
Yeah.
And it'll kind of get you where you want to be.
You'll be able to see like connections. I don't know. It's like for me, it's like that movie with the Rain Man guy. You just start seeing the puzzles are put together. Yeah. I'm like, ooh.
I have this. I have that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do this. I can do that.
Put this with this and this and this.
Yeah. No, that's amazing advice. So yeah, I mean, I'm so happy to have you on. I don't want to go too long. I know the audience, has a short attention span, but I'm so happy that you came on.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like I wanted to ask you 1 million questions, but
hey, well, whenever y'all want to have me back, it's all good.
Listen, don't say that. But so anyway, that concludes another episode of Unexpected Success with your host Joy, and I hope you got some jewels. I know I did. I guess to find out the latest info on this podcast, go to One of One Productions, and it will also on Insta and Facebook, Unexpected Success podcast. Thanks for listening. Keep winning.
This podcast was brought to you by 23DB Productions, ID Productions, and One of One Productions. For more information, go to Facebook and Instagram, Unexpected Success with Joy.